Hey everyone, this is Mike. What I'm going to do today is have one of my books read by an AI voice. AI voices are getting very realistic nowadays, so I'm going to try this out and see what it sounds like. And I have 76 books on Amazon and about 46 books on Smashwords. And Smashwords feeds into Apple iBooks and Barnes& and Noble Nook. My books vary between short stories, novellas, and a few novels. So what I'm trying today is one of the short stories that I have. One of my books, just from a point of interest, The House of Mars, I got an inquiry from that when it was first out from a movie scouting company in Paris, and another inquiry from a moving scouting company in the US. I've also had some interest shown in that book recently by an Indian director. And what I'll do, I'll put a link underneath to my Amazon page and another one to my Smashwords profile page. That will give you a feel for what kind of books I've got. This story here is called The House That Collected Realtors, and I actually sold this story to an Australian magazine way back in 2007, before ebooks even existed. My guest reader today is called Jenny, and she's an AI working for a company called Veed in the UK. Her voice sounds pretty realistic to me, so take a listen and see what you think. I'll come on again after Jenny has read the story. But just to give you a heads up on the story summary, Jill and Colin are realtors with a top firm in their city. They've just finished showing a house to a valuable client when there is a shift at the edge of reality. The front door and hallway of the house look the same, but the kitchen is completely different, and Jill's briefcase, which was on the kitchen counter, has disappeared. As they walk through the house, they realise this house has stairs, but the one they entered did not. The biggest shock awaits them when they look out of the back window. Instead of a snowy Connecticut landscape, the backyard has a lake and palm trees. They are now inside the House That Collected Realtors. I'll come on again after Jenny's read the story, and I'll tell you where I got the AI voice from, and I'll also give you some links to where you can see my books.
The House That Collected Realtors. "There's something very weird about this house," said Jill as she walked back into the kitchen. "I'm with you on that," I said. We had only been in this home just over 5 minutes, but something had been bothering me ever since we entered. I hated to admit it, but I was beginning to feel nervous. Jill put her briefcase on the counter and pulled out her card. Jill is the top realtor with our company. She is about 40 with long blonde hair, green eyes, and a very attractive smile, which she uses to its full extent. She is quite tall, at around 5'9". She put her card on the counter and looked at me. "I think we should go now," she said. I had only been with the company a few months, but Jill had seen promise in me, so she was looking to have me join her team. I was very pleased to be given this opportunity. Jill looked every inch the professional in her smart gray suit as she closed her briefcase. "What was that?" she said. "I'm not sure," I replied. I had felt it too. A very imperceptible change in the house, as though something had just slipped at the edge of our senses. There was no physical movement, just a subtle awareness that something had changed. Jill walked to the front door, and I followed her. As I walked down the hallway, I felt that the layout of the house was different in some way. Jill tried the door only to find it was locked. "That's odd," she said. She pulled at the catch, but it wouldn't move. After a few seconds she gave up and looked at me. "See if you can move it," she said. As I stepped into the door, there was another movement, almost like a slip at the edge of reality. We both felt it, but neither of us knew what it was. "Did you feel that?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "Come on, we can go out of the back door." "I'm keen to leave." Jill walked fast towards the back of the house. I was glad it wasn't just me who was feeling nervous. As I followed her, I saw a stairway to the right of me. "I didn't know this house had stairs," I said. "It doesn't," Jill said over her shoulder. She stopped so suddenly that I almost walked right into her. She was standing at the edge of the kitchen. She gave a gasp. I looked over her shoulder to see what the problem was. The kitchen had changed. Instead of brown fittings, the cupboards were now beige. The refrigerator was in the wrong place and the wrong type. The cooker was different. I looked at Jill. Her face was etched in shock. I walked quickly over to the back door. What I saw completely surprised me. Instead of the cold, snowy Connecticut landscape, I saw palm trees and a lake at the back of the house. "This is impossible," I said. I looked back at Jill. Some of her composure was gone. She looked alarmed. I tried the back door. It was locked and the catch wouldn't move. "I think we should stay together," said Jill. "Something is very wrong here." Jill pulled out her cell phone only to find there was no signal. Mine was the same. We tried calling each other, that didn't work either. We began to look around the house. As far as we could see, it was a standard American house, only instead of being in Connecticut, we were now in the South. It was the middle of winter and the sun was shining. Instead of heating, which we had felt when we came into the house, we could now feel cold air being pumped into the room. We walked around the house, and from each window we could see that we were in a typical southern subdivision. Jill found a newspaper. It was an Orlando paper. The date was as we expected. As we looked at the paper, the shift came again. We looked around the house. Some of the rooms were different, as though two houses had been put together. Out of the back window, we could see mountains. A light snow was falling. Jill went back to get her briefcase. It was gone. We searched the house and there was no sign of it. "I wonder what would have happened if you had been in the kitchen and I had been in the family room when the shift came," Jill said. "I think we would now be in two different houses. We should stay together." "I agree," I said. This was bad enough with two of us together, never mind being on our own. As we were standing there, we heard a noise in the main bedroom. Jill walked quickly to the room. Inside was a man dressed in clothes from 40 years ago. He was quite mad. We saw it in his eyes as soon as we entered the room. He picked up a chair and charged at Jill. She screamed, and at the last minute I was able to step between them and trip him. As he went over, I pushed him into the wall. He bounced off the wall and came at me again. "Get out," I yelled at Jill. She ran to the edge of the room but stayed in the doorway. I realized she didn't want to be in a different room if things shifted again. As the man came at me again, I punched him hard in the face. He staggered, so I hit him again. I wasn't happy about this, but it was him or me. From the look in his eyes, if he got the upper hand, he wasn't going to stop. He went down and I ran to the door. Jill and I went through it together, and then I held the door shut on the other side. Within a minute, he was banging on it. I held on as hard as I could. The shift came again and the banging stopped. Carefully, I opened the door. The man was gone and the bedroom was completely different. I went over to the bathroom and began to wash my hands. I looked at myself in the mirror. I am 6'2" with straight dark hair and blue eyes. Jill came in and stood next to me. She had a concerned look on her face as she handed me a towel. "Are you okay?" she said. "I'm fine," I said. "I hope we don't meet any more like him." "You won't," came a voice from behind us. We turned around to see a woman with long dark hair, probably in her late 40s. "Everyone else you will meet is sane. Some of them are a little pissed off, others have accepted their fate." "I'm Andrea," she said. "I'm Jill." "This is Colin," Jill said. The woman smiled at us. "It's the house," she said. "It collects realtors. Every person you will meet is a realtor. Some people have been in here for over 40 years. The house will calm down soon. There are always a lot of shifts just after it collects new realtors." "How does it work?" I asked. "We don't know how it works," Andrea said. "What we do know is that it has almost 500 properties. They all seem to be in the US or Canada. We are slightly out of phase with the real world. There are people in the houses with us, and occasionally you'll hear them in the background. Sometimes you might catch a glimpse of somebody on the stairs or in another room. If they see us, I guess they must think we are ghosts." I looked at Jill. She looked pretty shocked. I was too. Is there no way out? Asked Jill. No, said Andrea. She gave us a warning glance. Be careful not to damage the house trying to break out. It will punish you. You can't break the windows or open the door, no matter how hard you try. Andrea looked as though she heard something. The house is getting ready to shift again, she said. When you've been here some time, you'll begin to feel it ahead of time. Andrea walked towards the kitchen. Wait, said Jill. I prefer to travel alone, said Andrea. She went into the kitchen and closed the door. Jill started after her, but again came the slight shift. We opened the kitchen door. Andrea was gone. I decided it was time to get out of the house. Despite Andrea's warning, I picked up a chair and tried to smash the window with it. I hit the window 3 times, and the chair just fell apart on me. Jill was looking at me. Colin, don't, she said. A low-pitched rumbling sound began all around us. The house shifted again. This time we were in Colorado somewhere with no power and no heat. It left us there for 3 days. There was no furniture in the house, and at night we huddled together for warmth. We could see our breath most of the time. 3 days later the house moved us to Florida. The warmth and the sunshine were incredible after the cold. That was 10 years ago. We have learned not to push the house, and in its turn it is kind to us. It provides for our every need. There are always new clothes in the closets and fresh food in the cupboards. The televisions don't work because they are out of phase with the carrier signals, but many houses have books, so we have learned to spend our time reading. The phones don't work either. Jill and I have stayed together. We like each other's company. There are many realtors who are in pairs, and some are in groups of 3 or 4. Some travel singly, preferring their own company, others move from one group to another. It is nice when the house snags a new realtor, as we get to find out how the market is doing. Jill and I don't age. She is still 41 and I am still 27, even though we have been traveling together for 10 years. Most of the shifts come in the daytime, and at calm times they come every 2 or 3 days. When someone new enters the matrix, it can shift 5 times in an hour. Jill and I are very careful to stay together. We always shower with the door open. Sometimes we have to sleep on the floor or on couches, but every 15 days or so, the house will put us in a nice show home and we can sleep in a really comfortable bed. When that happens, we make love. Jill is not really a partner I would have chosen before, and she, I am sure, would not have chosen me. That said, lovemaking between us is very pleasant and I always enjoy it. Afterwards we shower together, which once led us into an interesting situation when the house shifted while our clothes were in the bedroom. We had to come out naked in front of other realtors who had shifted in. There is one house with a walled garden attached to the house. There is mosquito netting over the top of the garden, and that mosquito netting is as strong as 10-inch steel. Because we can't escape from that walled garden, the house lets us go through the door into the garden and we can sit in the sun. It knows that Jill and I like the garden, so we get moved there much more often than the other realtors do. We don't know whether the house is a house or whether it is some entity that has been in this land for thousands of years. If the house ever catches a Native American realtor, perhaps he will be able to tell us. We have accepted our lot in life now. At first, we tried to escape, but the house would punish us. Here, we have our every need catered for except our freedom. The house has some wonderful properties, and we are able to see some fine views. It always leaves realtor magazines out for us so we can keep in touch and up to date. The end.
Hi everyone, I hope you enjoyed the story. I recorded it on a site called Veed.io, which is a British site, and Veed has a free option that allows you to do a 10-minute audio recording. And what I did with this, I recorded it in blocks of 1,000 characters each to get the AI voice to do the actual speaking parts, and then I used Audacity to put each block together. And you can actually put each block together in Veed up to a 10-minute audio recording, and then you have to save that, export it, bring it up into Audacity, which I did, and then I needed more than 10 minutes, so I did the next part of the story on another feed-free recording. And once that was all done in 1,000 character blocks and put together, I exported that, and then I pulled that into Audacity as well. So basically what I did my start script in Audacity, then I put the two Veed scripts in with the AI voice, and then this last bit is me back on Audacity on a 4th track recording again. So, and that's basically what I did, and then I'm planning to go on to Canva and add video to it. So it's not really a particularly difficult process. I'd be interested in feedback from you all just to see how the AI voice sounds. Some of them are getting incredibly realistic now. I found one that was very, very realistic with real actors and actresses on it that were actually AI creations, but unfortunately they would only allow you about 4 seconds to 10 seconds of text and audio, so it was impossible to use that one. I'm going to go ahead and record another short story as well after this one. There are various improvements you can make to them, like removing punctuation, and there was a gap in one place in the story where there was the word ever and then the word since, and for some reason the AI left a big gap between them. So what I did was made one word ever since altogether, and it worked okay saying that. It will say anything you tell it to, basically. I don't think it bothers with spelling, it just goes through and says it. So I'll be experimenting with that in the next one. So that's it for now. So thanks for listening, everyone, and I hope you all have a great day and a great evening.